A grieving girl's selfless gift to a disguised stranger sparks a thrilling chain of kindness, transforming lives with unexpected consequences. Welcome to Life Bond Tales. Comment from where are you listening this story and subscribe to get more heartwarming stories. The late autumn sun dipped low over Philadelphia, casting golden hues across the cobblestone streets of Old City, where 9-year-old Emma Carter walked hand in hand with her mother Laura, their shadows stretching long against the historic brick buildings. Emma clutched a library book on astronomy to her chest, her dark brown eyes sparkling with curiosity as she pointed out a constellation pattern in the fading light, her small voice barely audible over the hum of evening traffic. Laura, a social worker with tired lines etched around her warm hazel eyes, smiled faintly, adjusting the worn strap of her tote bag heavy with case files from a long day at the community center. They had just left the Free Library of Philadelphia, where Emma spent hours lost in books about stars and galaxies, dreaming of a universe far beyond their modest, one-bedroom apartment in Fishtown. As they crossed Market Street, Emma's steps slowed her gaze, fixing on an elderly man sitting beneath the bridge, his threadbare coat pulled tight against the November chill, his silver hair poking out from a faded knit cap. His shoes were tattered, the soles peeling away, and yet he sat with a quiet dignity that set him apart from the usual passers-by. Emma tugged at Laura's sleeve, her voice soft but insistent. "Mum, look, he's been there every day this week. His shoes are falling apart." Laura followed her daughter's gaze, her heart sinking, at the sight she knew too well from her work with the city's vulnerable. "Sweetheart, we need to get home. I have to finish some paperwork before dinner," she said gently, guiding Emma forward. But Emma's feet stayed planted, her expression stubborn yet tender. "Dad always said we should help people when we can," she whispered, her words carrying the weight of memory. Daniel Carter. Laura's husband and Emma's father had died 18 months ago in a car accident, leaving a void that still ached like an open wound. His lessons of kindness lingered in Emma's heart, and Laura felt a familiar pang at their mention. She squeezed Emma's hand, her voice thick. "Your dad was right, but we can't help everyone, honey, come on." They continued walking the cities, sounds fading into a dull roar as Emma glanced back at the man, her young mind racing. Their apartment was a few blocks away, a cramped space filled with second-hand furniture and memories of a family that once felt whole. Laura set about making spaghetti, the clatter of pots a comforting rhythm, while Emma disappeared into their shared bedroom, her astronomy book open on the bed. Soon Emma's small footsteps echoed down the hall, and she appeared in the kitchen doorway holding a pair of well-worn hiking boots, their leather scuffed but sturdy. "Mom, do you think Dad's boots would fit that man?" she asked, her voice steady, but her eyes searching. Laura froze, the sight of Daniel's boots stealing her breath. They were one of the few things she'd kept untouched since his death, a tangible piece of the man who'd filled their lives with love. "Emma, those are special." She began, her throat tightening, but Emma stepped closer, running her fingers over the boots' laces. "Dad doesn't need them anymore," she said softly. "And that man's feet must be so cold." Laura knelt to meet her daughter's gaze, seeing Daniel's compassion mirrored in Emma's determined expression. "Those boots are all we have left of him, sweetheart," she said, her voice breaking, but Emma hugged the boots to her chest, her words echoing Daniel's wisdom. Dad said, "The best things are meant to be shared. I've been watching that man for 3 days, Mum. He doesn't beg or ask for anything. He just sits there." Laura's eyes brimmed with tears, her daughter's heart seeming so much bigger than her 9 years. "Let me think about it," she murmured, turning back to the stove to hide her emotions. That night, after tucking Emma into bed, Laura sat alone in the dim living room holding a photo of Daniel, his warm smile frozen in time, his arm around a younger Emma at the planetarium. "What would you do?" she whispered to the frame, knowing Daniel's answer would be to lead with love. By morning, Laura found Emma carefully wrapping the boots in brown paper, her small hands trembling with purpose. "Okay, sweetheart, we'll do it together. After school tomorrow," she said softly, and Emma's face lit up with a smile that chased away the shadows of their grief, if only for a moment. As they prepared the boots, Laura couldn't know that this simple act of kindness was about to weave their lives into something extraordinary, touching hearts far beyond the Market Street Bridge. The next afternoon, Emma Carter practically vibrated with anticipation as she burst out of school. her backpack bouncing against her navy sweater, her brown eyes scanning for her mother Laura, who stood waiting by the gate, her social worker's badge, still pinned to her coat from a morning of client meetings. "Did you bring them?" Emma asked breathlessly. Her hands clasped together, and Laura nodded, patting the tote bag, where Daniel's hiking boots rested carefully wrapped in brown paper. There, leather a silent testament to a life cut short. "I brought them, sweetheart. But are you absolutely sure?" Laura asked, her voice soft with the weight of letting go. And Emma's nod was firm, her certainty radiating like the autumn sun, still warm above Philadelphia's bustling streets. "More sure than anything," she replied, her words carrying a child's unshakable conviction, and Laura felt her heart swell with pride and ache with loss in equal measure. They set off toward Market Street, Emma skipping ahead, then pausing to let her mother catch up her excitement, tempered by a flicker of nerves, as the bridge came into view, its concrete arch casting shadows over the man who sat in the same spot. As the past 3 days, his faded cap was pulled low, his coat patched but clean, and his tattered shoes seemed even more worn in the daylight, exposing toes to the chill. Emma slowed her steps, clutching the package, her courage wavering, but her purpose holding firm, while Laura hung back a few paces, her hand resting lightly on her daughter's shoulder, offering silent support. "Excuse me, sir." Emma began, her voice small but clear, cutting through the hum of passing cars, and the man looked up, his weathered face softening as he met her gaze. "Yes, little miss," he said, his voice gravelly but kind, and Emma took a deep breath, glancing down at his ruined shoes. "I've seen you here for 3 days and your shoes aren't so good," she said, her words tumbling out, and Laura's chest tightened at her daughter's directness, a trait so like Daniel's. "These were my dad's," Emma continued, unwrapping the paper, to reveal the hiking boots, their laces neatly tied, their leather polished by her small hands the night before. "He's gone now, but I think you need them more than we do." The man's eyes widened, his hands hesitating above the boots as if afraid to touch something so precious, and for a moment Emma wondered if she'd made a mistake, but then he spoke, his voice thick. "I couldn't take something so special," he began, but Emma shook her head, her determination flaring. "Please, sir, my dad always said everyone deserves warm feet, and he took such good care of these." Laura stepped closer, her own eyes misting as she added softly, "It would mean a lot to us if you'd take them." The man accepted the boots, his fingers trembling slightly, not from cold but from an emotion Emma couldn't name, and he murmured a quiet thank you, his gaze lingering on the mother and daughter as they turned to leave. Emma's heart felt lighter. Her mission complete, though, she glanced back, once seeing the man cradling the boots like a treasure, his expression unreadable. What neither Emma nor Laura could know was that beneath the carefully crafted disguise of grime and worn clothing sat Nathan Caldwell, founder of Caldwell Innovations, a tech empire worth billions, who spent 1 week each month living among the cities forgotten to understand their world, without the filter of his wealth. This was day 3 of his latest empathy experiment, and he'd been moments from returning to his Rittenhouse Square penthouse when Emma approached, her small figure piercing the anonymity he'd cultivated. Her gift shattered the routine of his experiments, where spare change or half-eaten sandwiches were the usual offerings, never something so personal, so sacrificial. As Laura led Emma away, their figures fading into the Market Street crowd, Nathan remained still, the boots in his lap, his calculated persona slipping to reveal raw emotion, a feeling he hadn't known since his partner Anna's death 3 years prior. He pulled a burner phone from his coat, his voice no longer matching his disheveled appearance, as he called Clara Hensley, his executive assistant of a decade. "Clara, I need you to find out everything about a woman named Laura Carter Works at the North Philly Community Center, and her daughter Emma," he said, his tone urgent. "Don't ask why, just make it discreet." Back at their apartment, Laura prepared dinner, the scent of garlic and tomatoes filling the small space, while Emma sat at the kitchen table, her astronomy book open, but untouched, her mind replaying the moment under the bridge. "Did we do the right thing, Mom?" she asked, her voice quiet. And Laura paused, stirring the sauce, to kneel beside her daughter. "You did something beautiful today, Emma. Your dad would be so proud," she said, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face. But as Emma smiled, a small, uncertain smile, Laura's thoughts churned with the weight of letting go of Daniel's boots, wondering if she'd honored his memory or lost another piece of him. Meanwhile, across town, Nathan shed his disguise in his sleek office, the boots placed carefully on a side table, as Clara handed him a preliminary file on the Carters. "They're struggling, sir," she said, her sharp eyes noting the boots, but saying nothing. Nathan nodded, staring out at the city skyline, where somewhere Emma and Laura were eating dinner, unaware that their act of kindness had set extraordinary wheels in motion, a ripple that would soon touch their lives in ways they could never imagine. The following week, Philadelphia's autumn air grew sharper, the leaves along Market Street crunching underfoot, as Emma Carter sat in her new classroom at Franklin Academy, her navy blazer and pleated skirt marking her as one of the city's brightest young minds, though her heart still raced with the unfamiliarity of it all. Just 10 days ago, Nathan Caldwell, disguised as a homeless man, had accepted her father's hiking boots under the bridge, and now Emma was enrolled in a prestigious school known for its STEM programs, her tuition covered by a mysterious scholarship. From Caldwell Innovations, the tech giant that had recently partnered with the North Philly Community Center, where her mother Laura worked. Laura too had been swept into change, promoted to program director at the center, with a salary triple, her previous earnings enough to move them to a 2-bedroom apartment closer to Franklin, with a small balcony overlooking a park. The offer had come directly from Nathan Caldwell himself, who cited Laura's exemplary record and Emma's potential in a polished letter, but Laura's instincts, honed by years of social work, sensed something deeper behind the generosity. At home, she pored over the scholarship paperwork, her hazel eyes narrowing at the fine print, while Emma chatted about the Academy's astronomy club, where she was already designing a model of the solar system. "Mom, they have a telescope that can see Saturn's rings," Emma exclaimed, her enthusiasm spilling over as she set the table for dinner, but Laura's smile was tight, her mind wrestling with questions. "Why us?" she murmured after Emma went to bed, the new apartment's quiet amplifying her unease as she stared at a photo of Daniel, his warm grin a reminder of simpler days. Across town, Nathan sat in his glass-walled office on the 50th floor of Caldwell Innovations headquarters, the hiking boots on a side table beside a framed picture of his late partner Anna, her kind eyes mirroring the compassion he'd seen in Emma. Clara Hensley, his assistant, handed him a detailed file on the Carters, her expression neutral but curious. Laura's been with the community center for 8 years, perfect attendance, despite pulling doubles to support Emma after her husband's death, Clara reported, and Nathan nodded, his gaze distant. Emma's act of giving him the boots had cracked something open in him, a longing to honor Anna's dream of uplifting children from struggling families, a dream he'd buried in grief. "I'm launching a pilot scholarship program for community center employees' children," he told Clara. "Start with Emma, full tuition to Franklin Academy. Books, uniforms, transportation, everything, and offer Laura the program director role. She's earned it." Clara raised an eyebrow, but began drafting the proposal, her efficiency unmatched, as Nathan turned to the window, the city lights blurring into stars. Back at the apartment, Laura's sister-in-law, Susan Grant, arrived unannounced, her sharp features set in a frown as she paced the small living room, her coat still on. "You're telling me a billionaire just hands you a promotion and Emma a scholarship out of nowhere?" Susan said, her voice laced with suspicion, and Laura sighed, setting down her coffee. "It's a company initiative, Susan. They're investing in the community center," Laura replied, but Susan's eyes narrowed. "Daniel's barely been gone a year and you're accepting favors from some rich man. It doesn't sit right." "Laura, what does he want in return?" The accusations stung Laura's cheeks, flushing as she defended her decision. "This is about Emma's future, Susan, opportunities Daniel and I dreamed of for her," she snapped. But Susan shook her head, muttering about men with agendas before leaving the tension lingering like smoke. At Franklin Academy, Emma thrived, her astronomy project earning praise from her teacher, Ms. Larson, who called her a natural scientist, but the joy was tempered by overheard snippets of Laura's phone calls with Susan, their arguments filtering through the apartment's thin walls. "Did I do something wrong by giving Dad's boots?" Emma asked one evening, her voice small as she helped Laura wash dishes, and Laura knelt beside her, heart aching. "You did something wonderful, sweetheart. It's just complicated," she said, brushing a tear from Emma's cheek, but Emma's brow furrowed, her 9-year-old mind grappling with the ripples her kindness had caused. At school, she threw herself into the astronomy club, sketching constellations and calculating orbits, but at night she lay awake wondering if the boots had triggered something too big too fast. Meanwhile, Nathan monitored the Carters' progress. Through Clara, who reported Emma's academic success and Laura's seamless transition into her new role. She's hesitant but capable, Clara noted, and Nathan nodded, his analytical mind forming a plan. The scholarship program needs to be official. He said expand it to a foundation in Anna's name, start with Emma, but prepare to scale it to other families. Clara typed notes on her tablet, her silence approving. As Nathan picked up the boots, his fingers tracing the worn leather, a tangible link to Emma's selflessness. At the community center, Laura excelled her new role, allowing her to design outreach programs for families like hers, but the weight of Susan's doubts pressed on her. During a staff meeting, she learned Caldwell Innovations had donated millions to the center, part of Nathan's broader community investment, and her unease grew. "Why is he so involved?" she asked a colleague who shrugged, mentioning Nathan's reputation for philanthropy, but Laura's gut told her there was more. One afternoon, Emma came home clutching a permission slip for an astronomy field trip, her eyes bright but hesitant. "Mom, do you think Mr. Caldwell is helping us because of the boots?" she asked, and Laura paused, her heart skipping. "I don't know. Sweetie, maybe he just sees something special in you," she said, but the question lingered, echoing her own. As Emma traced constellations on her homework, Laura dialed Susan, hoping to mend their rift, but the call went to voicemail, Susan's silence louder than her earlier accusations. Across the city, Nathan stood alone in his penthouse, the boots now, in a glass case beside Anna's photo, a reminder of a promise rekindled by a child's gift. He wasn't sure what form his repayment would take, but he knew Emma's kindness deserved more than a scholarship. It deserved a legacy, and as he stared at the Philadelphia skyline, he felt the first stirrings of a purpose he thought he'd lost, forever unaware that Susan's suspicions were about to cast a shadow over the fragile trust he'd begun to build. The crisp Philadelphia autumn deepened as Emma Carter adjusted to life at Franklin Academy, her astronomy club projects filling her days with purpose, but a growing unease gnawed at her 9-year-old heart as she sensed the tension rippling through her mother Laura's once steady world. Laura, now program director at the North Philly Community Center, managed her new role with quiet competence, but the shadow of Susan Grant's accusations loomed large, her sister-in-law's words about Nathan Caldwell's motives echoing in late-night doubts. Susan's suspicion escalated into action when she filed a complaint with Child Protective Services, alleging Nathan's scholarship and Laura's promotion were forms of exploitation endangering Emma's well-being, a move that arrived like a thunderclap one chilly morning when 2 CPS workers knocked on the Carters' new apartment door, their clipboards and formal tones sending a chill through Laura's bones. "Miss Carter, we've received a report about improper influence from Nathan Caldwell, the female worker," Sarah said calmly, and Laura's heart plummeted, her voice steady but strained as she asked who filed it, though she already knew Susan's name hung unspoken between them. Emma hovered in the kitchen, her astronomy homework forgotten, her wide eyes darting between her mother and the strangers as Laura sent her to her room with a forced smile. "Sweetie, finish your star chart." "I'll handle this," she said, but once alone. In the hallway, Laura's composure cracked, her voice low and fierce. "This is absurd. My daughter's thriving. She has a real bedroom now at top school. I'm not working nights anymore. What's the concern here?" The CPS workers remained professional, explaining they needed to assess the home and interview Emma standard procedure for such allegations, and Laura reluctantly let them in her hands, trembling as they noted the apartment's cleanliness and Emma's cheerful responses about her new life. The visit ended with assurances the report seemed unfounded, but the humiliation lingered, searing Laura's pride as she called Franklin Academy to excuse Emma's tardiness, sinking onto the couch, her fury at Susan warring with fear of losing the opportunities Nathan's help provided. That evening, Emma overheard Laura on the phone with a friend debating whether to reject the scholarship and job to end the scrutiny. Her words, "I can't risk losing Emma," cutting through the walls like a knife. "Mom, are we in trouble because of the boots?" Emma asked, her voice small, and Laura knelt beside her, tears brimming. "No, sweetheart, you did a good thing. It's just complicated," she said. But Emma's doubt grew her trust in the world's fairness fraying. At Caldwell Innovations, Nathan learned of the CPS visit through Clara, who'd been alerted by the apartment building security a perk of the relocation stipend he'd arranged. "Morgan, I've been informed about CPS," Nathan said when Laura answered his call. His tone urgent but measured. "My legal team is ready to assist if you need it." "How do you even—" "No," Laura snapped, exhaustion sharpening her words, and Nathan explained the security protocol, his calm unraveling her patience. "Maybe we should stop all this, the scholarship, the job, it's causing too much trouble," she said. But Nathan's voice softened, almost pleading. "One meeting before you decide, there's something you need to know." Laura agreed, reluctantly scheduling her visit to his office the next day, her mind a storm of Patricia's warnings and Emma's worried glances. At school, Emma withdrew from her astronomy club friends. Her usual spark dimmed as she wrestled with the idea that her kindness had sparked chaos. During a lunch break, her classmate Zoe noticed her silence, asking if she was okay. And Emma blurted, "Do you think people are ever nice just to be nice, or do they always want something?" Her question heavy with new cynicism. Zoe's thoughtful reply, that people have reasons but they aren't always bad, gave Emma pause but didn't ease her confusion. That afternoon, Laura arrived at Nathan's sleek office, her scrubs swapped for a simple dress, her nerves taut as she faced the man whose generosity had upended her life. "Thank you for coming," Nathan said, his usual confidence softened by hesitation. And without preamble, he revealed the truth. "3 weeks ago, I was the man under the Market Street Bridge. I disguised myself to understand the world my wealth hides from me," he said, and Laura's hand flew to her mouth, the pieces clicking into place. "Emma's boots, your daughter, gave me something irreplaceable." Nathan continued, handing Laura a photo of Anna, his late partner, her warm smile echoing Emma's compassion. Anna wanted to help kids like Emma, especially from single-parent homes like hers after she died to cancer. "I lost my way until your daughter reminded me of that promise." Laura's anger softened, but her caution held. "Why not tell me from the start?" she asked, and Nathan admitted, "Would you have believed me, or thought it was a manipulation?" Before she could respond, Clara interrupted, announcing Susan's arrival in the lobby, furious and threatening to go to the press about Nathan exploiting her family. "Send her up," Nathan sighed. "Let's address this now," and Laura groaned. "I'm sorry about her. She's been impossible since Daniel died." Susan burst in her face, flushed, her voice venomous, as she spotted Laura. "Of course you're here cozying up to your billionaire while Emma's caught in his game," she spat, then turned on Nathan. "What do you want from my brother's family? Using a child to fill your empty life is sick." The accusation hung sharp and Laura gasped, but Nathan remained calm, his voice steady. "You're partly right, this is about Anna, but not how you think she dreamed of a foundation for kids like Emma. Your niece's kindness made that real." Susan faltered, her righteous anger wavering, as Emma slipped into the room, having followed Laura from school, her small figure trembling but resolute. "Hunt, Susan, stop. Mr. Caldwell's helping us because I helped him, not because he wants something," Emma said, her voice cracking. "I heard you fighting with Mom after Dad died. You didn't visit for months until the scholarship. You're mad because Dad left everything to us." The room stilled, Susan's face crumpling at Emma's perception, and Laura placed a protective hand on her daughter's shoulder, while Nathan stepped back, his presence respectful but firm. "This is a family matter," he said. "I'm here to support, not interfere. My legal team is yours if you need it, Laura." Susan's gaze darted between them, her certainty fracturing as Emma's words cut deeper than any argument, exposing the grief and jealousy driving her crusade, leaving the room heavy with unspoken truths and the fragile hope of reconciliation. The Philadelphia sky hung heavy with grey clouds as Laura and Emma Carter climbed the stone steps of the family court building, their hands clasped tightly, Emma's navy dress swaying slightly in the late November breeze, her 9-year-old frame small but resolute against the imposing facade. Inside, Susan Grant's guardianship petition loomed over them, a final escalation of her misguided crusade to protect Emma by tearing her from Laura, fueled by grief and suspicion of Nathan Caldwell's motives. Laura's heart pounded as they entered the courtroom, her mind replaying the advice of Mr. Reynolds, the seasoned attorney provided by Nathan's foundation. "Just answer truthfully. The judge wants what's best for Emma," he'd said. but the weight of defending her motherhood pressed hard against her chest. Emma sat beside her, her brown eyes scanning the room with a quiet determination that belied her age, taking in Susan's tired posture. Across the aisle, her aunt's sharp features softened by weeks of conflict. Judge Eleanor Hayes, a veteran with silver-streaked hair and a piercing gaze, called the hearing to order, her presence commanding, as Susan's attorney opened with a pointed argument, painting Laura as an opportunist swayed by Nathan's wealth, creating an unhealthy dependency for Emma. Miss Carter accepted a scholarship, housing, and a promotion worth hundreds of thousands, all from a man with an unusual interest in her daughter, he argued, and Laura's cheeks burned, her fingers tightening around Emma's hand. Mr. Reynolds countered, methodically presenting evidence of Susan's sparse contact with Emma after Daniel's death, contrasted with Laura's relentless parenting. Through financial strain, her promotion earned through documented excellence, and the scholarship administered by a reputable foundation with strict oversight. The judge listened, her expression unreadable, occasionally jotting notes as the arguments unfolded, but it was Emma's request to speak that shifted the room's atmosphere, her small voice cutting through the legal sparring. Your Honor, I know Aunt Susan thinks Mr. Caldwell is bad for us, but she doesn't understand what happened. Emma began standing to smooth her dress, her words clear and steady. I saw a man under the Market Street Bridge for 3 days. His shoes were torn and he looked cold, so I gave him my dad's boots, because Dad said to help people when you can. A ripple of surprise passed through the courtroom. The judge leaning forward as Emma continued, I didn't know it was Mr. Caldwell pretending to be homeless. He told us he promised his wife Anna before she died to help kids like me. My kindness reminded him of that. Laura's eyes welled with tears, pride mingling with awe at her daughter's courage, while Susan shifted uncomfortably, her attorney whispering urgently. Emma turned to the judge, her voice growing stronger. Grown-ups can be lonely too, even rich ones. I think Mr. Caldwell needs us as much as we need him, not in a bad way, but like friends helping each other. The judge's stern demeanor softened as she asked gently, What about your aunt? Does she want what's best for you and Emma? Hesitated, her answer careful. I think Aunt Susan misses Dad and is scared of losing more family, but taking me from Mom won't fix that. She said, then faced Susan directly. Aunt Susan, Dad said family helps not hurts if you want to honor him. This isn't how. Susan's composure, shattered, tears spilling as she looked away, unable to meet Emma's gaze, and the courtroom fell silent, captivated by the wisdom of a child. Judge Hayes removed her glasses, her voice firm yet kind. I find no evidence of neglect or inappropriate influence. The petition is denied. Custody remains with Laura Carter, adding more softly. Ms. Carter, your daughter is remarkable, and Mr. Caldwell's foundation appears legitimate, Ms. Grant. I urge you to find better ways to stay connected to your brother's family. As they left the courtroom, Laura wrapped Emma in a tight embrace. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart, she whispered, and Emma smiled, relief washing over her, though her eyes lingered on Susan, who sat alone, shoulders slumped in defeat. That evening, Susan appeared at their apartment unannounced, clutching a wooden box of Daniel's childhood letters, her face etched with remorse. I was wrong, Laura. I thought I was protecting Emma, but I was just afraid of losing Daniel all over. Again, she said, her voice breaking as she handed the box to Emma. These were his. I kept them after the funeral. You should have them. Emma opened the box, her fingers tracing Daniel's looping handwriting, stories of his youth she'd never known, and Laura's anger softened, seeing Susan's vulnerability. Let's try again. Susan's Sunday dinners once a month, she offered, and Susan nodded, tears falling, as Emma hugged her, a tentative bridge rebuilt. Meanwhile, Nathan kept his distance, respecting the family's need for space, though Clara updated him on Emma's astronomy club success and Laura's steady leadership at the community center. Emma, however, felt his absence keenly, her heart heavy, with the thought that her actions had pushed him away. One afternoon after school, she approached her teacher, Ms. Larson. I want to invite Mr. Caldwell to the astronomy fair next week, she said, her voice firm. He helped me get here, and I think he'd like my project. Ms. Larson agreed, and that evening, Emma drafted an email on her tablet, her words simple but heartfelt. Dear Mr. Caldwell, I'm presenting my project on constellations of kindness at the fair Thursday at 4 p.m. It's about how one good deed connects people. I thought you'd want to see it, since you're part of it." She hit send, her heart racing, then joined Laura for dinner, keeping her invitation secret. The fair arrived the Franklin Academy gymnasium, buzzing with projects, and Emma stood by her display, a model showing how kindness links communities, her nerves tingling as she glanced at the entrance. Laura arrived late, apologizing for traffic, her eyes widening when Nathan entered alone in a simple blazer. No entourage, his presence quiet but warm. "Riley, did you invite him?" Laura asked, and Emma nodded. "Is that okay?" Her voice small. "It's perfect," Laura said as Nathan approached, thanking Emma for the invitation, his eyes bright with genuine interest. Emma explained her project, her confidence growing as she traced the constellation-like patterns of kindness, starting with her father's boots, and Nathan listened, his usual reserve melting into pride. The fair ended with Emma earning an Excellence Award, Laura and Nathan sharing her joy, the awkwardness between them easing as they applauded her win. Walking to the car, Emma skipped ahead, clutching her certificate, and Laura turned to Nathan. "Thank you for coming. It meant the most to her," she said softly. "Thank you for allowing it," Nathan replied. "I've stayed away to avoid complications after the court case, but Emma's project reminded me why this matters." Emma turned back, her smile bright. "Mom can. Mr. Caldwell come for dinner sometime, he seems lonely in his big office," and Laura laughed, seeing Nathan's sheepish grin, a new warmth settling between them, a fragile but hopeful connection forged by a child's unwavering heart. 6 months later, Philadelphia bloomed with early summer warmth, the Boots of Compassion Foundation opening its doors in a renovated Old City brownstone, its brick facade adorned with a simple logo of stylized hiking boots, a symbol born from Emma Carter's gift to a stranger under the Market Street Bridge. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew a modest crowd of local families, reporters, and community leaders, with 10-year-old Emma standing between her mother Laura and Nathan Caldwell, her Navy, dressed with a Peter Pan collar crisp, from Laura's careful ironing, her brown eyes shining with pride as she held oversized ceremonial scissors. Laura, now the foundation's executive director, led the event, her social work expertise shaping programs that supported 60 families with scholarships, mentorship, and career resources, while Nathan stayed in the background, his billionaire status softened by a simple blazer, his gaze fixed on Emma with quiet admiration. The foundation, named for Daniel Carter's boots, honored his lesson of walking in others' shoes, offering not just education, but hope to children from single-parent homes like Emma, who at 10 had grown an inch taller and immeasurably in confidence. Her astronomy club leadership earning her a regional science fair spot. Susan Grant, Daniel's sister, stood among the volunteers, her organizational skills now channeled into coordinating foundation events, her relationship with Laura and Emma, healing through shared Sunday dinners, where stories of Daniel's youth filled the air with laughter and tears. Emma stepped forward to address the crowd, her voice steady. The Boots of Compassion Foundation isn't just about scholarships, it's about seeing people who might be invisible, she said, gesturing to the logo above. "These shoes are steps toward a better future for kids like me and anyone who needs a hand up, not a handout." Applause erupted as she cut the ribbon, Laura watching from the sidelines beside Clara Hensley, Nathan's assistant, who'd become a friend over months of collaboration. "She's remarkable," Clara said, and Laura nodded. They've been good for each other. Her eyes on Nathan, who let Emma take center stage, honoring her vision. Inside, the foundation's mission was etched on a plaque recognizing potential, fostering kindness, creating opportunity with programs like 3 Days, inspired by Emma's observation of Nathan's disguised experiment, where volunteers spent 3 days in communities to identify unseen needs. Laura guided visitors through the facility, her nursing background informing wellness initiatives, ensuring holistic support for families, while Susan shared how her own journey from conflict to redemption shaped her, volunteering a quiet amends for past mistakes. As the ceremony wound down, Emma found Nathan in the foundation's small garden, an oasis of wildflowers and benches, where he sat alone, his expression contemplative. "Why aren't you celebrating?" she asked, settling beside him, and Nathan smiled not. "Sad, grateful. Anna would have loved this, especially you." he said, his voice soft. I think my dad would have liked you too, Emma replied once he got past the billionaire thing, and their laughter rang out a moment of lightness in a year of transformation. Later that summer, Emma's 10th birthday arrived, celebrated in the Foundation's garden with a simple party she'd requested over the lavish events of her Franklin Academy peers, the table adorned with wildflowers and a cake topped with sugar boots, a touch Susan arranged her newfound baking talent, a quiet gift. Guests included Laura, Nathan, Susan, Clara, Emma's school friends, and scholarship recipients, their laughter mingling as children played tag among blooming shrubs. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Laura said, as Emma leaned toward 10 flickering candles, her eyes closing briefly before she blew them out in one breath, the crowd cheering as Nathan snapped a photo, not as a CEO, but as a friend preserving a memory. As the party continued, Laura stood between Nathan and Susan, watching Emma dart through the garden, her joy a stark contrast to the grief that once defined their lives. "I never imagined this a year ago," Laura admitted when I was scraping by at the community center, and Susan squeezed her hand. "Thomas would be so proud of you both." Nathan added, "Emma has Daniel's heart, your strength, and her own wisdom," and Laura smiled, seeing their unconventional family take shape. Emma approached out of breath. "Mom, can I show everyone the special room?" she asked, and Laura nodded. "It's your birthday, sweetie." Emma led the guests to a gallery near the entrance, where Daniel's boots sat in a glass case preserved, and respectfully displayed a plaque recounting their story. "My dad said we should walk in other people's shoes to understand them," Emma explained. To her friends and the scholarship kids, Mr. Caldwell tried to understand what it's like to have nothing. "Mom showed me bravery even when scared, and Aunt Susan learned family is about support, not control." The adults exchanged glances, struck by her insight, and Emma continued, "We all have different shoes to fill, but we don't have to do it alone." That evening, after the guests departed and the Foundation staff tidied up, Emma sat on a garden bench between Laura and Nathan. The three of them settled into a comfortable ease, not a traditional family, but a circle of connection that had healed their wounds in unique ways. "Did you get everything you wanted for your birthday?" Laura asked, brushing hair from Emma's forehead, and Emma nodded, almost everything, her gaze lifting to the stars twinkling in the twilight. "I just wish Dad could say what his boots started. Do you think he knows?" she asked, and Laura's eyes filled with tears. "I believe he does, sweetheart." Nathan rarely spoke of such things, but added softly, "Maybe he and Anna are watching this unfold together," and Emma leaned against her mother's shoulder, her smile content, a gesture both childlike and profound. In the gallery, the spotlight glowed on Daniel's boots through the night, a reminder that one small act of kindness could ripple far beyond its moment, connecting strangers into family. A year from that day under the bridge, Emma's gift had birthed not just a foundation, but a web of human bonds, transforming Laura's resilience, Nathan's purpose, Susan's redemption, and Emma's belief in the world's goodness, a legacy more enduring than any monument etched in the hearts of those it touched. As Emma drifted toward sleep that night, her whisper carried on the breeze, "Happy birthday to me, and thank you, Dad, for teaching me about shoes," the words a final note in a story that began with a pair of boots and ended with a constellation of hope.